Hello, everybody. Welcome to the first Roma Press live stream event. This is Andy Mattioli from the Roma Press podcast. I'm the co host of RomaPress.net. And this is just a quick tryout of what may come in the future in a more professional fashion and environment with perhaps a studio, perhaps some software that we are not familiar with right now. So bear with me. Thank you so much. Um, Today we are going to talk about the latest news that took place within literally the last 12 hours or so, when the dream of acquiring Romelu Lukaku in the final days of the transfer window was exactly that, just a dream, right? And as many of you listeners also can tell, in our latest episode, which came out yesterday, we were there and we were sitting there and we were saying with John that this this Lukaku thing, big story, lots of noise. And now what? Now what? We've heard about Morata, we've heard about Scamacca, we heard about Marcos Leonardo, we heard about Marco Arnautovic. All of these names that were there are now gone. They're off. They're out of the picture. And perhaps the unlikeliest one, Romelu Lukaku, a player that Chelsea had been asking around 40 million pounds for the past few months, and negotiations with Inter broke down over that price tag. Negotiations with Juventus broke down after that price tag. And it seemed like there was no way for Lukaku out of Stamford Bridge. And also, it seemed like there was no way that Roma could approach a player of that caliber this late in the window. Um, and yet we are here, and it's the 25th of August. And Thiago Pinto, general manager of Roma, and Ryan Friedkin, the club's vice president, are on a flight scheduled to London. So I'm just gonna read some of the comments here, and we're gonna do basically a takedown of this whole breakdown of this whole situation with Lukaku. What happened? What is likely to happen? I'm also going to talk about some of the talking points that Mourinho brought up in his press conference ahead of tomorrow's match with Hellas Verona. And then I'm going to address the questions that you may have and some of the comments. I'm going to read. Hello, ciao, amazing Vincent. Hello from Malta. Great. Why do I look like Romano's cousin? I don't know. I'm sorry. I don't know. I know Dune Part 2 just got delayed. It's awful news. So we're gonna talk about a lot of things, and hopefully this platform can grow into something even more engaging, and that's the whole point of it. So let's see where to start. Really, it starts off all with this assumption that Roma's transfer window is closed, basically, with Sardar Azmoun coming in from Bayer Leverkusen, and he's expected to be announced officially in the coming hours. The transfer window for the club, also in terms of just the attacker position, was closed. A lot of people believe that's where things are headed. If not, maybe another name could have come in, a lesser name. Which name, I really don't know. But as we saw, the progression of these names over the last few weeks was not going very well. We went from exactly Gianluca Scamacca, Alvaro Morata, who are good names, not the best, but good names. And then we went down into Muriel, Duvan Zapata, Marco Arnautovic. Then there was that period of uncertainty with Marcos Leonardo. And I see a question about the bracelets. There are three Roma bracelets. I have a lot of them in my wardrobe, so there's just a whole storage of bracelets. But the whole thing with Lukaku was unpredictable. not something that any of us really kept track of. Even journalists like our beloved friend Filippo Biafora of Il Tempo, or even Gianluca Di Marzio, Fabrizio Romano, that name of Lukaku was always considered something untouchable for Roma, because as long as the conditions for that deal were of permanent nature, of Roma potentially signing Lukaku on a permanent transfer, then no way, right? For Roma to even come up with something close to 40 million pounds, it's unfeasible, given all their restrictions, given the fact that they haven't spent a single dime in this whole transfer window. People were laughing a year ago when we spent 7 million for Salik, and yet, what happened? What happened this time is we didn't spend a single dime. It's all loans. It's all loans without the option to buy, obligation. It's free agent signings. So with Lukaku, it was only the possibility that this guy, this big time player who found himself in a really difficult spot, which, I mean, it's a hole that he dug himself in, would end up in the final week of August without a single team really showing any concrete interest in him for a permanent transfer, and that's really is the matter. How close is Lukaku, or Lakaka, as many people seem to reference here? I just want to say that how close I'm just a guy that is doing a live stream with all you wonderful people. I'm just basing whatever I say here. I base it on what we report on the website, on the romapress.net. That's where you can find all the latest info. I will say that Filippo Biafora of Il Tempo, who is our good friend on the show, has been on the podcast many times and is very, very reliable, down to the plane that General Manager Tiago Pinto and Vice President Ryan Friedkin just took a few minutes ago, literally 5 minutes ago. This plane took off in the direction of London, where they will meet with Chelsea representatives, and with the hope of actually reaching an agreement this evening. So that's what it comes down to, is that all of a sudden, within 12 hours, what appeared to be a dream is becoming quickly a reality. Even Jose Mourinho, in his press conference, and I'll address this later on, said that, listen, I was promised another guy in addition to Azmoun. I'm calm. He said, "Io sono tranquillo. Don't come at me. Okay, the media, don't come at me. I'm calm. Don't take issue with it. Why am I calm? Because I was promised another striker." And that's, first of all, for me and for John and for many of you as well, it must have been a big relief to know that Roma are not going to end up with just Azmoun, because, mind you, Azmoun has been painted in quite a horrible light just because of the momentum, right? That it seemed like this was the signing, this is the name. Everybody reacted to that as if it was repellent. Nice to see you, bro. Well, thank you very much. Nice to see your comment too. I just want to also point out that Azmoun was linked to Roma in 2021. He was very, very close, very, very close in the summer that Jose Mourinho was appointed manager. The prospect was of having Edin Dzeko stay another year and bringing in an additional striker to pair him up with. And that was supposed to be, Sardar Azmoun was supposed to come in and play with Edin Dzeko. That deal didn't go through. Azmoun at that time was playing for Zenit. It didn't go through. So Roma went after Eldor Shomurodov, which in our patron group chat is also known as the GOAT. Eldor Shomurodov, the GOAT, who is now at Cagliari. Unfortunately, that didn't work out. So Azmoun was off the table, although he had been very close with Roma. Now, 2 years later, Azmoun, or as somebody calls him here, Azmoun. Come on, Anthony, that's not cool, man. We're trying to keep it civilized here, and and Azmoun came into Roma at a particular time where the club find themselves with only 1 week left till the transfer window closes, And Tammy Abraham is still injured and will be injured until early 2024. Some of the predictions are that he's going to be back in March, April. We don't know when. That ACL injury can take a toll, especially on a striker. So what happens is that that Azmoun comes in at a time where the fans are expecting something, anything, right? We've seen so many names being linked, so many players being approached. I mean, Roma were really ready to close the deal with Duvan Zapata, and then when Atalanta changed those terms and said, "Listen, this is going to be a permanent transfer," Roma backed out, and perhaps they backed out because that thought, that idea, that dream of Romelu Lukaku all of a sudden started to appear on the horizon. And so Roma went, okay, you know what? We're going to close this deal for Azmoun. So this is going to be a temporary deal, a buy option. Azmoun comes in for free on loan with a buy option of around 12 million euros. He's a guy that has struggled over the last 2 years. He hasn't been too prolific. Last season scored only 4 goals. Recently injured himself. Not a great player in terms of the moment that you're signing him in, right? So that's what it comes down to. It just the Azmoun, you can see even the video of him landing at Ciampino. Only 15 fans were in attendance, and that says a lot because there was like over 100 for Leandro Paredes and Renato Sanchez, both of whom are fine players, but they're not exactly world-class signings. So the Azmoun reception was very, very tepid, and something didn't work. Now, Roma go and out of their way and scout all the options available that are free because you have to consider this is the one trick, Chad, Andy. Well, okay, thank you so much. um, the thing about this is that Roma had to find somebody that's going to come in for a free. We're talking about 1 week away from the transfer deadline. Now, again, Chelsea, up until a month ago or even 2 weeks ago, really, were asking everybody that was approaching them for 40 million bucks. To the point that even Juventus, who were supposedly interested in a swap deal with Dusan Vlahovic, said no. And so Roma, all of a sudden, they see this opportunity because it's an opportunity. And I said it a number of times on the podcast. Roma's transfer windows are increasingly becoming more of opportunity-based windows. It's not even, you can't really plan or scout when you're dealing with so many financial restrictions that prevent you from really considering top players or even players that so for example Beto, right? I saw a lot of people say, well, why don't we get Udinese's Beto? He's a good attacker, he knows Serie A. The guy is supposedly on his way to Everton for around 35 million bucks. Okay, so that already that's a whole different reality for Roma. So as long as that was the case for Lukaku, that's a movie. It's not a reality. And now today's report by, I think it was the Telegraph, first thing in the morning that I see on the internet, is Chelsea open to the possibility of loaning Lukaku. Now, Gianluca Di Marzio, just a few minutes ago on Sky, said that Chelsea have opened to a loan of Lukaku only to Roma. In my opinion, like if you ask a guy who's doing a live stream with all you wonderful people on a Friday afternoon, if the general manager of the club and the club's vice president, Ryan Friedkin, who's not a guy, he's a kind of low key, doesn't want to show himself too much. If those two guys travel with a private jet, to England to discuss this Lukaku deal, which up until 12 hours ago, nobody really knew much about. then there has to be something, and there has to be something really concrete. There has to be something close. Now I see that a lot of what hair product do I use? Man, I was born this way, Alec. I'm sorry. I just it's a funny business, because it just shows you that this is a market of stories, because it's based on stories. Who can sell the better story, they sell the better player, right? We look at that Samardzic deal with Inter, how it collapsed. It was a whole saga, and it was built over time by his, yes, you guessed it, entourage, to to up the asking price, and to up the commissions. For Lukaku, it didn't work out so well, right? That whole situation with Inter, he was supposed to go to Inter, was supposed to come back to Simone Inzaghi, give him a big hug, and say, listen, I'm here now. I'm on a permanent basis here, and it's gonna be fun, and we're gonna have a good time, right? After reaching a Champions League final, that was an incredible, incredible night for us, and we're gonna do it in the long run. And then he backed out, and all of a sudden turned his attention to Juventus. Now, this is a man who, up until 3 years ago was saying, in no way in hell am I leaving Inter. Then he went to Chelsea and said that's his childhood club. And now he went back to Inter, and after returning from his loan, is looking to join Juventus. Questionable decisions. I guess his entourage are not really great. How do you expect Roma will cover the wages? And that's a very good question. Thank you, Giant Jules 55. Well, thanks, Jules, I guess. um, that's the interesting question, because mind you, Roma are paying, their highest paid player is Paulo Dybala, who's not yet earning over 6 million euros. He's still not there. He's still a little bit under. So you have to consider that Romelu Lukaku, what is his his John coming out. I don't know. I'm trying to get him on board. He's got a family life. That whole thing with Lukaku's wages, for me, it's incredible. I have to see a really detailed report of how Roma will want to do it. For now, there are figures 70%. Some of the things, about how this the first, the report was Roma are willing to cover the whole wages, then 70%. Some are saying 80%. In my opinion, there has to be some help from Chelsea, because to pay 10 million per year is is scary. But mind you, somebody says, "Oh, how that makes sense? Add 10 more and buy Morata." Yeah, but it doesn't work that way with financial fair play. That's the money that you pay a player is not the money that you use for a transfer. That would be in the ideal world, right? That would be fantastic. I know that my friend Adam suggests that if I sold some of those bracelets, I could afford AirPods. Well, no, Adam, I ride old school. This is an old school live stream, so I really don't know what it's gonna happen with these wages. Does it make sense for Roma? Because that's the big question. It's a big name signing. I know that you all feel about differently about Lukaku. For some, this is an ex-player, right? For some, this is a guy that gave his best under Antonio Conte, and since then, nothing too impressive. He underperformed at Chelsea with Tuchel. He was very lukewarm at Inter last year. He was injured for the first few months of the season. That wasn't. It's not a good moment for Lukaku, but that's why Roma can't go out of their way to get him. Then there is obviously people that think he's a top player and he's gonna make a difference. Now, I wouldn't say I'm in that group of people, but I will say that this is the closest thing that we get to a player that Mourinho identifies with in this moment, the kind of player that Mourinho would need in this moment. Bringing in Lukaku, I think, offers you just as many solutions up front. All of a sudden, this attack that everybody was complaining about is starting to open up. Andrea Bellotti, El Shaarawy, Paulo Dybala, Lukaku, now Sardar Azmoun. That could potentially give Roma a huge range of options up front, a huge range of combinations to try out. And I think that's what Roma were looking for. They were looking for a big physical guy that can wrestle around, that has Serie A experience, because if you think about it, that's Duvan Zapata, basically. Although a healthier Duvan Zapata, perhaps more talented than Duvan Zapata, but Duvan Zapata, this whole shtick under the infamous Bangs bow is physicality, is strength, it's the movement, it's pace. Lukaku may not have the most beautiful touch of all. He may not be the ballerina of Stamford Bridge. He's not delicate. I know, Anthony, that we are repping Belotti, but that's the thing about Lukaku, is that you're getting a big, powerful guy that has made the difference in the Premier League and in Serie A. Like it or not, that's what it comes down to. Last season was a bit of an anomaly. I think it's just this guy did not know how to cope with his uncertain future. Maybe the Lukaku that we might get, because mind you, this is not done. So I don't want to say I don't want to make it out like this is a done deal. And if you'll notice in the title of the live stream, there is a question mark, because that's what it comes down to. We don't know. We'll see what happens. It's close, but we'll see what happens. Lukaku right now is a player that maybe is short on confidence, given the way everybody's treated him over this transfer window. Nobody has considered him a top player. Roma are doing to Lukaku what they did to Paulo Dybala a year ago. That's what they're doing. They're going to Lukaku and they're saying, listen, man, we're gonna do something with you. You are gonna reunite with Jose Mourinho. You're gonna come back to this league that you were so good in, that you won a Scudetto with Inter, and we're gonna let you go. We're gonna let you do whatever you want. You're gonna have some partners up front. You're gonna have Paulo Dybala behind you, and somebody says Zapata is Andy Garcia, Lukaku is Armando Assata. Okay, whatever. But I think that's what Roma are trying to offer to Lukaku, this prospect of, this is it, man. This place will treat you like a king if you earn it, if you deserve it. That's what happened with Paulo Dybala. Paulo Dybala was uncertain what's going to happen. Does anybody want me after basically 2 years of injuries at Inter? And in the end, Roma were able to exactly offer that solution of, we're going to back you all the way, and we're going to support you, and we're going to make you our star player. With this Lukaku, I'm 100% certain that aspect has been talked about by Mourinho, who has already spoken with the player, and by Thiago Pinto, Ryan Friedkin, who are traveling there. There has to be, I'm sure of it, there has to be a point in the discussion where the representatives look the player in the eye and they say, you can be special again, because you're not special at Stamford Bridge. You're not special at Inter, because they don't want you anymore. You're not special at Juventus, because the fans were disgusted with the prospect of losing Dusan Vlahovic. Here you have a free range of options. I mean, you have Andrea Belotti, sure, who's gonna, that's the whole point, right? We want this team to be competitive. That's what we are seeking all the time, is to have this team compete, be competitive, have a range of options up front, in the midfield, and the back. Now, I see that somebody mentioned, there are two questions here. One is, will we get a fit defender? And I think there is, that's a very good question, because Roma, after selling Roger Ibanez, I think we all notice that they lost something, right? They lost something. Doesn't even mean that they lost pace, they lost confidence, they lost composure. I know, I don't mean that, but they lost some kind of versatility at the back. In my opinion, it's even more important to address this wingback situation, because if you bring in Lukaku, you need somebody who's crossing the ball. Now, if they don't do that right, we'll have to please pray to the gods that both Houssem Aouar and Paulo Dybala will be able to give him something, because that's the kind of plays that the wrists. Your wrist looked like a 19-year-old who went to 12 festivals this summer. Well, pretty much, I mean, spirit-wise, you can't kill the 19-year-old in you, because that's when things go bad. So we have to pray that if Lukaku comes in, the team figures out a way to involve him, because we saw that Lukaku can get demoralized very easily. You can argue that Jose Mourinho finds a way to get these players going, right? And that's what he did with Dybala. He said, "Listen, kid, you go out, you be our special player, and you deserve it." I love you too, Alec. Now that's another point of Marcos Leonardo, because it seems like we all forgot about this 20-year-old sitting in Brazil, hostage of a club that promised to leave him and ended up keeping him, right? That was the whole situation with Marcos Leonardo. For 3 weeks or almost a month, I think, we were constantly being linked with this 20-year-old who almost none of us saw, I assume. I don't want to insult anybody in this lovely chat. The question is, Roma were also working on an agreement for a January move for Marcos Leonardo, because the player wanted to come here, because the player wanted to leave Santos, who are fighting relegation, and come to Mourinho and also just get his first taste of European football. Santos declined this opportunity for him because they are fighting for relegation. They need one of their top players. And can Roma still do that? The big question was, do Roma have spots for non-EU nationals for extra, right? And the answer is yes. They have one spot because Leandro Paredes played at Juventus last season, so he doesn't take up the one of the slots. So formally, in a bureaucratic sense of the matter, yes, Roma can still get Marcos Leonardo. But at this point, you bring in Lukaku. The only way I can see Leonardo coming in is if Roma go out of their way to give Solbakken a chance in the first few months of this season, and then they decide, no, it's not working. Because we saw that Solbakken is the main attacker that is being linked with a potential exit in these final days, right? El Shaarawy staying, Dybala good to go, Andrea Bellotti right there leading our attack. I know our good friend Anthony is loving it. And but the question is, with Solbakken, can he play anywhere else? Can he get minutes elsewhere? We know that Bologna liked him. It was up on Roma Press. John reported that Bologna made inquiries for Solbakken. His entourage wanted for him to get some playing time, which he's not getting at Roma. I mean, he sat on the bench against Salernitana, even when Bellotti was literally dying. So we will see. He's going to be on the bench tomorrow against Hellas, but that's the only way I can envision Marcos Leonardo coming in again. And I think that's the reality of the situation. You ask, yes, what is the long-term strategy? Yes, sir asks. Well, we're getting constantly injury-prone players on loan, but not securing our long-term future. I don't know if I agree with that. I can see what you mean. Mind you, the loans that we're seeing, the injury prone. I mean, we're talking about Renato Sanchez, really, of the players that we signed who has an big injury record. That's Renato Sanchez. I don't think that applies to Rasmus Christensen. Houssem Aouar didn't play last year. I mean, Aouar and Dika, yes, are long term. They signed as free agents. Both of them are, don't have any particular injury record over their career. Ndika was a regular starter for Frankfurt. Aouar had been basically excluded from Lyon's lineup. for a whole season. And but that's about it. Renato Sanchez is the only big gamble that Roma took in the midfield, because of favorable terms, favorable relations with PSG. The fact that you could, in fact, get a guy that, hey, if you get lucky, he's going to be class for you, right? And if we get lucky and if he fulfills any kind of obligation in terms of the appearances, you're still going to play very little. What is the long-term future? Gambling on having players that come good while we suffer today, and due to that suffering, lower how our club is viewed by good players and talents. I think that Roma are working on several fronts, right? I saw people getting upset with this Giacomo Faticanti rumor. Well, not rumor, it's news. I mean, he's gone. Of this Primavera captain who goes to Lecce, midfielder. The situation there was the player was supposed to be included in Roma's first team with Mourinho. And then the player came back from international duty and said, listen, guys, I want you to get me to a team where I can get some minutes. And I want to leave. And I want to play some minutes. And I want to be a starter somewhere. Now, Roma cannot guarantee those kind of minutes to players. I think the long-term future here is a compromise between what is sustainable right now and what we can do with the talent that we have at our disposal. It's a push and pull between short term and long term. In my opinion, that's what Roma are doing. You'll notice Eduardo Bove. He's starting for us. This is a guy that came up last year. He's there. He's there for us. That's what he's doing. He's got a chance to start for his boyhood club. Same thing with Nicola Zalewski. The fact that Roma right now have sent Volpato to Sassuolo on a permanent deal, Missori, Sassuolo, permanent deal. It's unfortunately that is a sacrifice that you will have to make at some point. Roma have always made those that kind of sacrifice has been deeply rooted in Roma's recent history, right? But the difference is that 5 years ago you were selling Alisson to Liverpool, and now you're selling Missori to Sassuolo in order to get the balance sheets right? So that's the difference. I understand that it may be frustrating to see a lot of these homegrown talents leave. The reality of the situation is also what can you compete with a squad that is very, very young and still needs minutes in Serie A with Mourinho, especially Mourinho. I mean, the fact that Mourinho is doing this thing so far and he's entering his third season at Roma is, to me, it's mind-boggling. I'm just all over the floor. I mean, to me, it's unbelievable that he's even doing this. I was not confident at all that he'd be staying. I think Mourinho embraced this process along the way. If you look back at his first season, the first few months were a disaster in terms of how he was living it. He was not happy. He was not happy with the players at his disposal. He was not happy with the prospects. He was not happy. Slowly but surely, he grew to embrace that process, the fact that he gets to give a kid a chance, and then he gets to see that kid either become a starter for the club or leave, like Felix, right? Played starting minutes for Roma, didn't work out. We all know what happened afterwards. I'm not going to mention it. But then he goes out to Cremonese, right, on a permanent deal. And that's what happened with Missori. That's what happened with Benjamin Tarhirovic. The point is, Roma need to generate that revenue. And unless I don't know, if you wanna lose some other key players in the squad, you have to settle for that. That's the answer. Would you go live after games, guys? I would love to give you a guarantee. We're still working on this format. For sure, we're gonna be doing more of this. I'm likely to take this forward as I have a freer schedule than John. We will also want to try and see if we can record the podcasts on camera, so for everybody to see it on the YouTube channel. You can subscribe to the channel so that it helps, and also click the the bell so that you get a notification when anything comes out. But this is going to be, we are trying to make this steady. Is there an unspoken ban on Roma buying players outright this summer, or is there a net capital gain that must be achieved according to financial fair play setup? No, no, there is no ban. There's just not, I mean, there's no money that you can actually spend. Yeah, I mean, there is no money that you can spend in the moment. If you'll notice, Roma do loans with obligations. That's the closest they can do, and that's what most of these teams that are under financial fair play settlement, like Inter, for example, Davide Frattesi didn't join on a permanent deal outright. He joined on a loan deal with an obligation that is probably going to run for 4 years, because that's what Giovanni Carnevali does with the teams from the north. But that is the situation. It's not even about, because I see this misconception all over me. Roma are poor. Roma may not even be poor. It's just that money is locked in somewhere, and they can't get to it. It's that's just in simple terms. I'm trying to make it accessible for everybody. Some memberships here for life. Listen, I'm trying to figure it out. This whole thing, you're gonna have to bear with me. As a Mourinho fan, his change blew my mind. He just loves Roma. Yes, I agree that there is something there. I think something changed after Bodo. The club backed him over a lot of the players, which is rare for him. Even I think that comes down to even this Lukaku thing. Mourinho sees that Roma, with all of those restrictions in place, are really trying their hardest. Last season, Roma signed Paulo Dybala and Gini Wijnaldum. For any other club, that is insane. Like for Roma, that is insane. For any other club, big club, those are regular signings. At Roma, Paulo Dybala and Gini Wijnaldum was it's unbelievable, especially in that moment of a team being out of Champions League football for so many years. I think that's what Mourinho sees. Every summer, every transfer window, Roma try. Doesn't mean I completely understand that people are frustrated. People are don't like some of the names that are being linked, and that's perfectly fine. The thing that I think appeals to Mourinho, or that keeps him here, is that everybody's trying. The fans are supporting him. The fans are behind him. The club are basically doing everything it takes to make the situation bearable, and to get those deals, across. Like, for example, Evan Dika. Guys, you may not have liked what he showed in preseason, and that's totally fine. But this is a player that had a bunch of offers on the table, that had been linked with Barcelona, that was in talks with Milan, a player that was pursued. Houssem Aouar, again, the kind of player that Roma can strive for, Roma can call a good signing, because the guy hadn't played in a year. But if you go back 2 or 3 years ago, Houssem Aouar is one of the brightest talents in Europe. Andy, what do you think about us laying Lukaku as the real defender, so we can be more creative at the back? Maybe we can move Smalling into the strike. But yes, I know, Steven. I know people are suggesting those things. I will not buy into your sarcasm, sir. Yes, Indika will play soon. I think that's really a matter of games, of the player getting comfortable. And so I think that's with Llorente there, he gives that kind of security that you perhaps lost with Roger Ibanez, right? You can't head into a new season with a completely new defensive lineup and expect good results. I mean, we saw obviously Roma conceded 2 goals against Salernitana. That's not good, but we move, right? We move. That's the saying. So for now, just to conclude the Lukaku chapter. Thiago Pinto, Ryan Friedkin are flying across Europe to the UK, and they will be. Oh God, I'm not even gonna check Twitter. I'm not gonna do that. I'm sorry, guys. Ryan Friedkin and Thiago Pinto are on their way to England, and they're gonna meet with Chelsea. And I think the whole feeling is we're gonna get this deal done tonight, right? Like that's That's the bottom line. If Ryan Friedkin is flying, and this guy never flies, that's his dad. His dad flies the Spitfires, the whole shebang in Tenet. Not Tenet. God damn it. Yeah, Dunkirk. Sorry, that's the Christopher Nolan movie, and that's where Dan Friedkin he flew instead of Tom Hardy. So that's him in the airplane. That's him actually flying the airplane. So Ryan Friedkin, as the club's vice president, he hasn't shown his face much in terms of negotiations. You'll see him at the stadium, but you don't see him going out of his way to meet with people in hotels around Milan or Europe, right? And this time he's flying, so there has to be something concrete. There has to be. It's even just a way of communicating something to the player and to the fans that, hey, guys, we're putting all our efforts into this. This is all our eggs into the same basket. Boom. We're doing it. So, Andy, what do you think of the Spinazzola situation? Only 1 year left on his contract. Yes. So that's the Lukaku situation. It's done. Guys, that's the segment. That's it. Once we get this rolling and once I get acquainted with how this works and software, we're going to do like whoosh, images, all kinds of to just communicate that segment is done. So Lukaku Roma is the segment. You're gonna rewatch it. Now we're gonna proceed to Hellas Verona, but before that, I wanted to also answer that just Spinazzola question. It's for me, it's a problem. For me, this is a player that should have left this summer because unfortunately, I don't like to say it, but he's done. He's done. He's cooked. He's boiled. Okay, he's a soup. He's essentially chicken soup right now because it's not. This is not a player that is giving you the answers you need on that flank. This is a guy that was supposed to be that superstar for us following his Euro campaign, and it didn't work. Yeah, it's Jover. Yeah, he's Jover. Exactly. That's the bottom line with Spinazzola. So for me, Roma are gonna take a loss on this, unfortunately, because he's gonna leave for free. I don't think that the club and the player will make any sort of contact to get a new contract. That's not. I don't see this changing anytime soon. So, and we can move on to Hellas Verona, which is tomorrow. Roma Press, my favorite people in the Roma English community. Well, there is a lot of good ones. I mean, most of them are completely insane, but they're good ones. So welcome to the family. Yes, Spinazzola not giving you the answers you need, and that's why, leading us into the Hellas Verona game, you're looking at Riccardo returning to the starting 11, Nicola Zalewski returning to the starting 11, Lorenzo Pellegrini, Paulo Dybala will be back from suspension, Andrea Bellotti will be leading the attack once again. Houssem War, I think, is gonna play once again central midfielder, and today I wanted to touch upon this press conference by Mourinho because he mentioned how he loved this midfield. He announced that Renato Sanchez is out. He picked up a minor injury in training yesterday. And yeah, that's not vodka. The thing about Renato Sanchez, we all know this guy has been very fragile. He comes into Roma. He's supposed to give us a hand, but you need to baby him, right? You need to really take care of him. You need to be... And Mourinho basically said, we know what to do with players like him. We know what to do in terms of just his physical conditioning. We have done it with Paulo Dybala. And I trust the man. He got Paulo Dybala to play like a superstar again after basically 2 seasons of very little at Juventus. And yes, he got hurt along the way. That's inescapable with Dybala. But notice how he was unbelievable there. With Renato Sanchez, it's going to be the same. You're going to need time to get the ball rolling really with him, because that's a star player in the making, Renato Sanchez, and that making process has been going on for quite some time. I mean, when he had that Euro, he was only 18 years of age, and it seems like it's been forever, right? Plenty of injuries. Unfortunately, he's not going to be able to be that guy that from the start, right off the bat, is going to be slot in easily and give you all that energy that you need. Karsdorp and Mourinho are on good terms now. Listen, the latest reports of the media, over the last few months, basically said that whatever happened in November was smoothed out by the player and the coach, who met halfway and decided we're going to work this out. Karsdorp is on Roma's transfer list. Karsdorp was supposed to leave this summer. Again, like Spinazzola, he was supposed to leave. Karsdorp was the club went to Karsdorp and his agent said, we need to find you a team. You need to find a new team to join. We want you to move on. That did not happen. I think the attitude there is, it's fine. We're gonna handle it, right? And I think both him and Mourinho are handling it like professionals. Doesn't mean that Karsdorp is supposed to be, our starting fullback all season long, and whatever. This is still a player that can offer you a lot. He has also some drawbacks. He's not perfect. We all know his limitations, but I think right now, with Christensen still trying to figure things out, Karsdorp can come in handy. I think the Karsdorp that we saw before he picked up that meniscus injury in late March, I believe, was very good. The Karsdorp that came out of that slump and all of a sudden was reintegrated into the team was very good. So I expect him tomorrow to start. Going back to that press conference by Jose Mourinho, he said he liked the midfield. He felt that he's got a number of combinations there going for him. He didn't rule out playing Pellegrini and Aouar together. He also said that in Dybala's absence, Aouar will be able to play more up front behind the striker. So that's exciting, because I think that's really the position that the player, that the player thrives in. He's creative, he's strong, he's fast. The game with Salernitana showed that he can also play that central midfielder role. He can break up the play of the opponent. That was a welcome sight. But I think he also mentioned Paredes, Cristante, these combinations, and these guys can play together. That's what Mourinho basically is saying. He said to the fans and to the media, stop, don't worry, because every day there are reports of who's gonna play, what's gonna happen, is there tension in the locker room. And with these guys, if they're quality players, easy, we'll handle it. This is Roma. They're playing a number of competitions this year. They want to go far in the Europa League. They want to compete for top four. When is having a lot of players for the same position a bad thing? For Roma, never. As you can see, Renato Sanchez gets injured in training. You have to move on. You have to keep going no matter what. So that was an interesting thing about the fact that Aouar will get to play in Paulo Dybala's absence. That doesn't mean that only when Paulo Dybala is absent in terms of injury. It can also mean that sometimes you have that possibility of resting Dybala, which is a very good thing, because last season you couldn't afford that. Every time you had Dybala sit on the bench, Roma would suffer, and people did not like that. Any truth to the Skira rumor that Ryan Friedkin? Oh, come on, Alec. I'm not even. You see, like you trick me into reading these long messages, and I still think we're lacking a pure defensive midfielders. These guys can fill in against some of the weaker opponents, but for consistent quality against anyone we play, we need a specialist. Yes, we had Nemanja Matic until this guy just decided to take up and leave. That's bottom line. Bottom line is Nemanja Matic was not meant to leave. Nemanja Matic burned some very important bridges in his life over the last month or so. Jose Mourinho does not want to see him. Even refer to him as Mr. Matic in his press conference. That's cold, man. That's cold. It doesn't. It's a shame. It's a shame, because I think Matic could have been so much more important for Roma even this season. After that Europa League defeat, you needed somebody to pick you up, and I think Matic, right? We all saw that video of him telling Paulo Dybala, "That's football." You needed that attitude. It didn't work out. That's not the way it went. Nemanja Matic is at Rennes now. He's enjoying the French countryside, and and we have to be happy for him. I think that's the defensive midfielder that you're referring to. Paredes is not that. Paredes can break up the player. We saw him do that in the World Cup. We didn't see that at Juventus, and but you betray the family, it's over. That was the message. Bottom line, Mourinho sent that message. It was so funny to see him even go out of his way to mention that he still talks to Amadou Diawara. Guys, do you remember Amadou Diawara, the guy who left to Anderlecht? Yeah, that guy. He's still in contact with him. He's still in contact with Jordan Vertu, with Felix Afenagian, Sergio Oliveira. And he went out of his way to basically discredit whatever Matic did. Yes, Adam on the WhatsApp, those hanging pictures, Pulp Fiction, The Godfather, and no, my dear, that's Pulp Fiction, that's Goodfellas, and that's Mikey and Nicky. That's a movie from 1976 by the great Elaine May with Peter Falk and John Cassavetes. Yeah, exactly. I remember on Mourinho's birthday, he had Diawara on video call. That's what we're talking about, right? Like so whatever Matic did, it's bad. It's bad because a collaboration that spans so many years to end the way it did in a pivotal situation, in a situation where Roma were really under pressure. They needed to get some deals done. They have very limited financial maneuvers and limited time, only 2 weeks from the opening match day of Serie A. And Matic, out of the blue, comes out of his way and says, you know what, I need to go to France. So, yes, povero cane. Yeah, that's what happens. So I think Leandro Paredes, it's going to be a season of, we have a number of options in the midfield, but we have to learn to work with each other. Again, because at the end of the day, whatever you may have figured out last season, in the end, you have to figure out the defense again, which was easily probably the best aspect of this team, right? The most solid aspect. And Drew, afternoon chat, welcome. We have to figure out the midfield, and we're going to have to figure out the attack. It's not going to be easy. Like I expected this season to be the culmination of Jose Mourinho's time at Roma. And instead, we are seeing not a complete overhaul by any means, but there are still some significant changes that Mourinho and the players will have to work their way out, right? In terms of just the dynamics, the formation, game plan, the schedule, the injuries, fitness, whatever these guys have to offer. Yeah, good to see you, Jew, looking good on camera. Thank you very much. But again, I was looking at some of these things about the green screen, and I'm not gonna buy a green board. I have to first see how this whole thing works. So thank you guys for coping with me. This is the Roma Press YouTube channel. You can always support us on Patreon. I like our wonderful patrons who are watching the show by going to patreon.com/Roma Press. And that really helps us a lot to keep this going and to exactly try to bring you this format as well, which is good that we're doing it because it's fun to engage with people. What is the feeling of the fans in Rome? There is a lot of Mourinho hate in the forums. Okay. This is Frank. Frank is asking this. I want to say this. Forums, Twitter, internet, media, forget it. Don't think about it. This is not, whatever you see it's not the representation of what happens. And by this, I don't mean to say that it's full of fake news and blah, blah, blah. No, what I mean is there is a way to deal with these things. There is a balance. There is a way. Sometimes, yes, you will see banners that at the stadium when fans are not happy. You'll see maybe some writings on the wall in front of Trigoria when something needs to be communicated. But with Mu especially, there is no bad blood. I think the whole general consensus is we fill out the stadium. I mean, the stadium is being sold out game in, game out because Mourinho is here and because he provides us with a sense of security, with a sense of leadership that this team and this fan base hadn't experienced in so many years. I mean, this guy literally took them by the hand after Paulo Fonseca left and said, this is how we go. This is how we go about trying to win. This is how we go about trying to win as underdogs, really. And that's what he's been doing. So don't mind the forums, don't mind Twitter, because that's noise in the background. Sometimes there is good opinions, sometimes it's interesting, but a lot of the time it's get pretty heavy. So full stadium due to Mourinho primarily. Yeah, that's a good talking point. Listen, opinions vary. I think for sure Mourinho is one of the main reasons why the stadium fills out. I think that momentum that he brought with his arrival just gave it a spark. But I also think that the way this team fought across these last 2 years is the reason people stuck around, because they saw that this team was really playing their hearts out. That's why we all believed in their endeavor in the Europa League final, and that's why we weren't mad. I mean, we were upset, we were sad when we lost, but you couldn't really point a finger at the team and say, yeah, no guys, you didn't, you played half-assed final, you deserve to lose. No way. That was a very impressive run, and that's why I think going into this third season, we're going now to Hellas Verona. It's going to be difficult. They beat Empoli their last time out, so this is not by any means. It's not an easy match. I see people say, "Well, if you don't get the 3 points this weekend, it's game over." No, it's August. Guys, chill out. It's gonna be fine. The weekend is here. It's August. Dropping a point in the first 2 games, it's still acceptable, especially if you're trying to figure things out, right? And I'm not saying that we shouldn't get mad if tomorrow Roma miss chance after chance and you don't get the scoreline that you want against Hellas Verona, but that's really what it comes down to is this team. We have to understand that they're trying to figure it out. Mourinho said today that this isn't by any means not a perfect squad. The team as it is on paper right now, he says it's between 5th and 8th place, and it's not a wild statement if you think about it, because that's just facts. They're just facts. It's facts, because this team is not amongst Napoli, Inter, Milan, and even, I'm sorry, even say Lazio. Lazio, for what they did last season, the Roma are not above them, and we have to understand this when we talk about this team. Now, with Lukaku's potential arrival, I don't know what you guys want to call this team. If they want to call it a Scudetto contender, if you want to call it a Champions League on lock, in terms of qualification, obviously, and please, no, don't put me, don't make this a clip. But that's the situation, is that this Roma team has to figure it out. A game at the Bentegodi is far from easy. We talked about with John at length the conditions of this stadium that should be, it should not be there any longer. It's not a good pitch. It's not a good facility. It's not good. So that's not going to be easy with the heat, with everything, with a team like Verona that under a new coach Baroni are doing well, and they figured it out. The prediction, Andy, prediction for tomorrow, Joey Peruzza. Man, that's a good one. I still maintain that Roma need to come out with a win out of here. Like this is not the fact that I'm saying Roma could drop points along the way. It's just part of the process. It's something that I've come to accept. But the reality is that Roma, in these circumstances, have to win. I would say that, and I expect Verona to give us problems. So I would say something along the lines of 2-1. And I hate predictions. I hate it. Yeah, Joey Peruzza saying clip it, chat. Yeah, no, Joey, thank you very much. Team is full of injury-prone players. I already addressed this. With Lukaku, Dybala duo, top 3 possible. You know, top 3. I think top 4 perhaps is more of because Lukaku, if he's coming in, that's what you want to do, and I think that's the perception that Mourinho has. He's like, he said today in the press conference, Pinto promised me another attacker, and I'm going to be very happy if he's a quality player. I think Lukaku fulfills that requirement. He is a quality player. In this situation with Roma at this point, he is a quality player, and I think that his arrival right there and then, right now, really, it's all about Roma trying to shorten that gap between themselves and the rest of the top teams in the league, the likes of Lazio, Inter, Napoli, even Milan. You have to shorten that gap. Bringing in somebody like Lukaku immediately puts you in the conversation. Doesn't mean that you belong there, but it just means that the media, the fans, are going to expect something more from you. So that's what it comes down to. I thought, as we wait for more Lukaku news to come on, I wanted to say also exactly that, by going back to the stadium thing, Mourinho also said he didn't like the way Mourinho was not on the bench against Salernitana. He's not going to be on the bench against Verona. He said he didn't like the way the fans cheered the team on in the Salernitana match. He didn't feel the full support of the fans. That was not something that Mourinho liked. He didn't think that was enough. I think he also referred to the whistles that Leonardo Spinazzola was subjected to. Deserved in that instance, it was deserved, but Mourinho knows with this team, if you do something like that, something can click in that head of theirs, and it can be problematic in the long run. Like somebody like Spinazzola, you need to give him the confidence, right? So that's really what it comes down to. It's you need to give the confidence to that player, and so he said, I hope that the fans that are going to be traveling with us to Verona are going to be there and are going to be supporting us like we know they can, right? So the 3,000 fans are expected to be in Verona. Hopefully that gives you something. I also wanted to say one last thing before I only address the questions. Mourinho said, I keep motivating the players, even if they barely play, they're important. Their time will come. Solbakken didn't play the last game. He'll be on the bench this time around too. There will come a time when everyone is needed. And that's what I think is crucial when we say about this family, this concept of this team, and also these expectations for the year. It's about these players that are, not world class. All of them are coming from different situations. Some have injury records, some come on loan, some have had disappointing seasons. It's, as I said on the podcast many times, this team is accumulating misfits. It's just, these are guys that know they have limitations, and they wouldn't be here if they didn't have limitations. Like Dybala's limitations, it's injuries. That's why he didn't sign with Inter. That's why he didn't sign with any other team like Manchester United, who were interested in him. That's why, when in that summer of 2022, that's why he decided to come to Roma. So this team is a team of misfits. I like the fact that he referenced Solbakken, because there are so many questions about him, and we said that it's very uncertain if he stays, and what happens with Marcos Leonardo, we don't know. You can't have an endless number of attackers. Even if you're Roma and you struggle to score, you need a fixed number of players that you can put on the pitch. Everybody's needed. Even somebody like Sardar Azmoun, who, people are skeptical. I mean, you look at that smile of his when he landed at Ciampino Airport, the guy was in heaven, even though he was met by 15 fans, right? So the idea is, get together once again, get the group together, and let's try something. They did that last season. They went up in the Europa League. Nobody expected them to, especially in those conditions in March, April. Remember when we were I think we were top 3. And I mean, the injuries, Karsdorp going down, Dybala going down, Brian Cristante broke his wrist, Andrea Bellotti broke his rib, something else. But honestly, it was a battlefield, and we still managed to get to European finals. So that's what happens. Now, guys, I wanna just address some of the remaining questions. I'm not gonna be able to answer all of them, but as I said, this is gonna be a format that I'm trying to with John to carry it forward. It's gonna be, I assume, primarily me to do these previews or discussions, afternoon chats, whatever you want to call it, as we try to get this whole thing going. And as well, as I mentioned, the Roma Press podcast, we will try to record them on camera so that it also becomes a nicer thing to have on YouTube. I realize that we are aware of it. We're working on it. So thank you for coping with us, and thank you for supporting us. And if you like it, click like, click subscribe, do the bell for the notifications. In your heart of hearts, says Sufyan, what do you like? What do you look forward to the most, League or Europa games? Listen, for me, the Europa League last season was a breath of fresh air. I never thought that that I would see Roma climb those European steps so fast. You know, in 2 consecutive years. I mean, I'm a kid who cried, literally cried crocodile tears when Manchester United were beating us 7-1. I think I cried even more when Daniele De Rossi scored the lone goal of the night. That it just massacred me. That's so for me, it's special. Europa League is special, but this team needs Champions League football, and I need to see this team be more consistent in the league. It's something that we haven't grown accustomed to in these last years. It's something that we have mishandled severely, and that's why it cost us the Champions League qualifications for so many years. I mean, it's it's been what, 2018, so yeah, 5 years. Roma with Mourinho, with Dybala, those names, they deserve to be up there, right? They deserve to be up there. They're going to be up there. They're going to be in the pantheon. There's going to be in the history of the club, because Mourinho secured us a Conference League trophy, and perhaps Dybala. Let's see what happens, but it definitely led us to a Europa League final as well. You don't forget that. But I do think that the league at this point, it's an obsession. For me, for you, for the team, it's an obsession. It's a crazy, crazy obsession that will haunt us because we got our hands tied. You know, it's like, again, Robert De Niro in Copland. I can't do nothing. I got my hands tied. You know, that's exactly what Roma are dealing with. They've got their hands tied because of this, because of their own actions, their mishandling of the finances, and the football that was being played on the pitch for the past 5 years. Not consistent enough. And so, if you ask me, League or Europa League campaign, I have to say League. Andy, is your love of Roma did it come from Stockholm syndrome? Well, I mean, you know, this is a team that it just rips your heart out. Andy, what do you think of Mies VR? This guy was supposed to leave on loan this season, because Roma were even linked to a Turkish goalkeeper in his place, because Mies VR came here hoping to get a shot. And we even remember that he played, I think, the first game in the Europa League last season against Ludogorets, and conceded 2 goals. And after that, it was just Rui Patricio time and time again. Made a brief cameo in the final stretch of the season in the league. But I think this guy deserves a chance. We all know that Rui Patricio is on the decline. And mind you, I do think Roma would need a goalkeeper. Is that a priority this summer? No, it wasn't. It was never going to be a priority this summer because of Roma's limited financial conditions, right? So it was not something that they could address right now. I think Miles VR, if he keeps working, he'll get his shot this season. I'm pretty sure that there's going to be, either he gets those Europa League games and he gets them right at the beginning and he's there all the way, or he's gonna play a bigger part in the Coppa Italia or in the league. That's another thing I want the Roma to consider this season. I always say it: Coppa Italia has to be something. Would you be happy if Roma failed to qualify to the AL knockouts? Come on, no. There has to be, what is the top left poster? The one above Goodfellas? That's Mickey and Nicky. I said it. It's a crime comedy from 1976. And then I have another poster with a Taxi Driver, Lost in Translation, and Reservoir Dogs. Do you think Ola Solbakken is getting booted? And if so, is it harsh? It's harsh. I said it before. I think that in the end, if somebody's going to leave in these final days, it's going to be him. You're going to if you go for Marcus Leonardo in January, Ola Solbakken is I assume he's going to be on his way out. If Romelu Lukaku does come in, it's going to be Sardar Azmoun basically taking the place of Ola Solbakken in the ranking, in the team ranks, and we saw that Ola Solbakken is not getting playing time. I thought he should get playing time, and it's been a mishandled signing. That's the one thing that I think we got it wrong, right? We got it wrong. That's what we got it wrong. Ola Solbakken, definitely. Why did Adidas say Roma was not an Adidas elite club? Oh man, I can't. Like those sponsorship things. I don't know what it depends on. It probably depends on a number of marketing factors, fan bases, deals. All over the world. I don't sponsor. I don't know. Roma right now are playing with SPQR on their shirts. That's what they're doing because they don't have a good enough sponsor offer. What changed during the last day between the podcast and now that Lukaku seems to happen now? Julian, if you're joining us, we discussed it at the beginning, but basically what happened is Chelsea said, listen, we're going to accept a loan offer. We can do a loan for Lukaku, which is something that they refuse to accept for the entire summer. And the problem was that nobody was willing to pay the money that Chelsea were asking for Lukaku, with the exception of Saudi Arabia. But Lukaku was not interested in that. Lukaku, his agent, want to return to Italy, and Roma are the one team that are standing there with arms open, super happy, and so that's what changed. I'm not gonna check Twitter because that's dangerous, especially on a live stream I'm not familiar with. It's worth once again saying that there is optimism with regards to Lukaku. Ola is very behind tactically. Definitely, we saw this team. We saw this player. Try to get acclimated to the team. I think the fact that he was not able, he had a difficult period of getting permission to play for Roma because he was supposed to be a free agent. He's supposed to he was waiting for Bodo. The season with Bodo ended, and they were not giving him the green light to go and join Roma. And so he waited, I think, for it was like a month and a half just training on his own, and then just again, whenever you get a player mid-season, it's always difficult for them, and I expect that if that's the case for Marcus Leonardo in January, I expect it to be difficult for him as well. So, do you think we will get a center back? I think that's still a possibility. I think that's still a possibility because Mourinho talks about it. Mourinho talks a lot about it. It's something that Mourinho addressed also in January. That was a situation where he said, I need another defender. In this case, you need another defender because Marash Kumbula is injured. I think that's the possibility. I think if there is a player that should come in these final days, potentially Lukaku, but if there is another player, that's the center back. They were looking at Solé from Salzburg, but now he got injured, and I'm not sure if there are any other options. I asked if you would be happy to be out of EL group stage so we can focus on the league for once to make up. I wouldn't say I would be happy to drop out of Europa League. I would never be happy for that. I do think that obviously it's something that Roma would have to take into account, right? I mean, this is a team that desperately needs time in between games to perform well. We'll see what happens this season because of maybe more depth, right? We've talked about the midfield, we talked about the attack. This team has grown in numbers, and that's the one thing that I think will make a difference. I would never be happy. I would perhaps understand that then the circumstances are more favorable to another season, to another shot at the Champions League spot. So maybe this is tricky to ask on a live stream, but how are our finances looking? Europa League win, final Conference League win. Sorry, Europa League final, 100 million or so in cash since Zaniolo has gone. Wage base slashed. Must be doing. I mean, it's the financial. I'm not the guy to ask about that. I think John is much better at that. I think there is a debt that Roma are in, that everybody's in Serie A. I mean, Inter are losing money left and right. Juventus are losing money left and right. Roma are losing money left and right. The fact that they are able to generate money, and they did that by June 30th, that does not mean that that's Roma keeping their head above water. That's it. It doesn't mean that Roma are growing richer and richer, and that money is going into the Friedkin's pocket. That just means that Roma are fulfilling their obligations to the UEFA settlement agreement, and that's really about it. That's the only thing I can say, is that Roma are in a position where they every summer, every window, they're trying to keep their head above water, and that's what they've been doing, and that's why I think with Thiago Pinto's work. I've talked about this on the podcast. Everybody knows how I feel about it. The criticism can sometimes be too much, just in terms of the work that he's assigned in doing in trying to generate that revenue, and that revenue is the only thing that is keeping us alive and not getting a transfer ban, because mind you, we're going to get fined by UEFA in October for not generating, I think, generating slightly below 30 million by June 30th. We were required to fulfill 30 million in revenue. We did slightly less, and UEFA already said they're gonna put a fine, but it's better to pay a fine than to face a transfer ban, especially if you're Roma. Guys, final questions. So if we don't bring in another center back, do you expect we see a little bit of Karamitsis? I think he was in talks to join Catanzaro. I don't know if what's going to happen there. I think with defenders, it's trickier when it comes to Roma making that leap from the Primavera to Roma. We haven't seen that really with Roma at all over the last years, with Mourinho as well. I mean, Mourinho gave a shot to Zalewski, who was a midfielder and was adapted as a fullback. So that's really what it comes down to. Is there a buyback clause for Faticanti? Do you know? What I saw is no. What I saw, I see that Yuma says yes. I know it's a sell-on clause. It's a sell-on clause. It's a percentage on the future resale. There is no buyback. Exactly. Yes. So, yeah. Capradossi. Exactly. I was about to say Capradossi, last center back to even make a cameo appearance really for Roma for what was it, like a 6-game stretch in that awful 2018-2019 season. Yeah, exactly. 35% sell-on clause on Faticanti. So I will end it here by saying thank you, everybody, for joining me. I hope that this was entertaining. I hope that we were able to clarify some things. There is this anticipation with Lukaku. We'll see what happens. But as I said in the beginning, if the club officials are flying to do this for a loan, there has to be something. It means that there has to be, a pretty clear link to the possibility of signing Romelu Lukaku on loan for the duration of the next of the next season. So yes, Thank you, thank you, guys. That's very kind of you. You need to do this more. I want to. I try to. Again, you have to understand. It's John and I. Roma Press. It's just two people. It's just two people, and sometimes John's lovely missus who helps with the marketing. But aside from that, it's just us, and we try to figure out all the angles. We operate in different time zones. John is in the US, I'm in Europe, and we have to make it work somehow. So I want to do this more. This was my initiative today to come here and sort of say, we are here, we got a face, this is what we look like, this is what we're gonna do. If circumstances allow it, I would love to do more of it. I will try to do more previews, I will try to do more reaction videos. I will try to react after games. I think that's what John also is doing for the patron. So if you want that, if you want early access to the podcast episodes, or exactly to reaction videos and audio, you know, whatever you want, guest acts, whatever, you go on Patreon and help us support the show. That will mean very much to us, because we're trying to get this rolling. So thanks, guys. We will see you, and we will talk to you, I guess, after Roma-Hellas Verona, or rather Hellas Verona Roma, and fingers crossed for Lukaku. Thank you so much in the name of Roma Press, and take care, and we'll talk to you soon. So, ciao.